Wilhelmina Kailipaina Bina Nieper was born in Honolulu on January 7, 1893, just 10 days before the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom. Her father, John Theodore Nieper, was German and came to Hawaii when he was just 12 years old to work in the sugar mill at Kekaha, Kauai. Later in his adult life, he moved to Oahu and became Honolulu's first expressman. Her mother, Susan Titcomb, was a gifted composer, and Bina was exposed to the sounds of Hawaiian oli and mele from birth.
My mother herself was a great composer, mostly chants. I don't remember them. Only one song that's recorded. It's called Lai Lai. She had others, but I was too young then to realize what they were, besides the chants.
Her first real interest in music was sparked at age 10 as a student at the Central Grammar School, and by age 13, she was leading her entire middle school assembly in song. Music would remain a constant in Bina's life. As a musician, composer, entertainer, and choral director, taking her around Hawaii and the world. It would become an avenue through which she expressed her love for the people, places, and communities she cared for so deeply.
Bina Mossman's compositions remain among the core music that is left for us as Hawaiians to treasure. Our composers of the old days would treat mele as we do pictures that we take on our phones. It was their way of capturing a situation, capturing a story. Bina Mossman's mele, or songs, are historic. They're fun.
Bina Mossman's music is so varied, I think, from song to song. I think the melodies and the chord changes are not typical of Hawaiian songs, but so beautiful. The songs that children could relate to, that adults could relate to, that visitors could understand and feel good about, that dancers could be inspired by.
When you look at her songs, it goes without saying the songs are beautiful. The way they're written, not only Olela Hawaii, but the mele itself and the harmonic, melodic meat of that as well. It's all beautiful. It's classic. It comes from this time that's mixed from what Liliuokalani taught her to her time, which is a few decades after that. We have this uprising of hapahaole music and popular pop music of Hawaii at the time. It has influences in both of those things. It's just really good mele and a really wide variety of what she has.
In addition to her love for music, Bina nurtured a deep passion for civic service, seeking out platforms for progressive change during an active political career that spanned 35 years.
I think there are many examples in Hawaii of people who are really reared with a strong cultural foundation and a music foundation that eventually transferred into a world of politics. When she walks in the room, she has such a dignity about her that I think that her leadership in politics was really strongly enhanced by her music.
What I can remember and appreciate about Mrs. Mossman was the fact that she was an independent woman, very strong-minded, very regal, and as a politician, she did much to get the women out to vote. And she was very successful in doing so, but she was always so beautiful, spoke eloquently, and just a marvelous family, mother, friend, musician, entertainer. She was marvelous.
Tonight, we will learn more about this remarkable woman and the legacy she has left us through a life of service and song.
Without music, my life would be incomplete. I can't understand why some people think it isn't important.
Bina Mossman was born in January prior to the overthrow. She was born just a few days, 10 days, prior to the overthrow of the Kingdom of Hawaii. She would never know what it was like to live in the kingdom as it was. But her connection to music was comparable to that of the time of the monarchy.
In 1914, at the young age of 21, Bina founded the first all-Hawaiian girls glee club. For 30 years, the Bina Mossman Glee Club would impress audiences with their performances, singing at parties, weddings, and concerts hosted by the elite of Hawaiian society, as well as territorial and U.S. government officials.
My father was the production announcer for several shows on KGU, including Charles E. King and his program, and the Bina Mossman Glee Club program on KGU radio in the 1930s and early 40s. The ratings were quite high, and one of the reasons was Bina Mossman's music was really fun because, of course, she wrote in Hawaiian and she had a lot of kauna in her lyrics, but it had a gay, happy feel to it. It was really lively music and people loved it, and her group was very popular.
Many of the club's early rehearsals were held at Washington Place, then home of Lili'uokalani, at the invitation of the Queen herself.
She was a very fine woman, and a very intelligent woman, and a very wonderful composer. We just went there for several rehearsals, that's all. And if we didn't pronounce our Hawaiian correctly, she would send Mrs. Rose Tribe, who was her companion at the time, to tell us because Rose was singing with me in my glee club. She would tell us the right pronunciation.
I think for Lili'uokalani, choral music was a part of her life from her childhood. She was educated in the Chief's Children's School in the Halikula Kamali'i, and music was a part of that education. Musical notation, singing, playing of instruments, composition. These were all things that were considered appropriate for the children of the Ali'i to be learning. Following the overthrow, I don't know that the Queen changed that much. I think that her resolve and her commitment to her people endured, right? And you can see that in the motto that she employed, Onipa'a, and this idea of steadfastness, but this constant movement within being firm, right? And so knowing who you are, but still acting within that space. I think that was a theme for her and an important thing for her from before her reign, during her reign, and then even in the period afterwards. So I'd say that idea of Onipa'a, just holding fast in her cultural practices and in her values, but also in her political statements and in her political endeavors, and music was definitely a part of that.
When Hawaiians heard harmonies with the missionaries, they gravitated to it and always appreciated. And thus, choral music was very popular, I would say, from the 1830s all the way through the 1930s and beyond.
Hula continues to decline after the overthrow and into the early 1900s. Choral music, though, was a way that was allowable, and I think our kupuna grasped onto those spaces. Lili'uokalani was well known for her composing of mele. I think music was a genre through which our kupuna could share ideas, right? That maybe not have been, she didn't have a venue in which to do that anymore, right? Following the overthrow, she didn't have access necessarily to public spaces in the same way that she did prior to it. And so I think choral music then allowed her, within the community that she existed in at the time, allowed her to still have her voice out there. But what I think is important about them is that the text is still Hawaiian, right? The lyrical content is Hawaiian, and that's a lot of what's getting expressed. And then that combination of voices, of choral voices, then allows this harmony to come together that I think can get to those kind of same spaces of reverence and ihi that you can get to through chant and through hula. It allows us to express our ideas about our aina and about our people.
The Queen undoubtedly left an impression on young Bina, as she epitomized a regal and staunch leader held in esteem by her people, even as she endured the effects of political turmoil in Hawaii.
Mrs. Mossman was in a time where women were starting to become very good leaders, and Mrs. Mossman had that natural talent to music, and she was considered a leader among others. Why wouldn't she step up and create the Bina Mossman Glee Club and participate and found other organizational glee clubs like the Ahahui Ka'ahumanu Glee Club or singers. And from what I hear of the old-time singers, a lot of them got their starts in these glee clubs like the Hawaiian Girls Glee Club. Our queen, toward the end of her life, I would say the last 17 years, from 1900 to 1917, 100 years ago, Hawaii lost our queen. She probably was never more loved than in those days.
At Lili'uokalani's funeral services in 1917, the Bina Mossman Glee Club was there to sing.
When she died, we were chosen to stand around her bier, waving kahilis and singing her own compositions.
Even after the Queen's passing, the club would continue to celebrate Lili'uokalani's legacy through their musical performances.
Hawaiian concerts of unusual artistic beauty was given at the Honolulu Academy of Arts Sunday afternoon by the Bina Mossman Glee Club in honor of the late Queen Lili'uokalani's birthday. There is an indescribable feeling of tenderness permeating the atmosphere when Bina Mossman's group gives their best, which they did on Sunday. For one feels that the simple sincerity of the songs is a true expression of the Hawaiian spirit, the spirit whose dominant note is love.
Even as a young girl, and before women had the right to vote, I was interested in politics. My first experience in campaigning was for Prince Kuhio as a delegate to Congress. I used to love to go out there because there were a lot of people around, handing out cards for different candidates, and I was passing Prince Kuhio Kalanianaʻole's cards around.
Jonah Kuhio Kalanianaʻole was indeed an inspirational figure during a time of great change in his homeland. Born of royal lineage, Kuhio was brought up in the court of his uncle, King Kalakaua, and destined for a life of service to his people. In 1895, following the overthrow of Queen Lili'uokalani, he participated in a counter-revolution in an attempt to restore the kingdom monarchy. After serving a 1-year prison sentence for his role in that rebellion, Kuhio spent some time traveling the world before returning home to the politics of post-annexation Hawaii. He eventually joined the Republican Party and was elected in 1902 as delegate to the United States Congress, a position he would keep for the next 20 years.
Prince Kuhio Kalanianaʻole spent many years in Congress as Hawaii's territorial representative. As a child of the royal family, he was very engaged in what became a transition from the monarchical government to the territorial government, and he did so with a lot of dignity and a lot of respect.
Kuhio passionately believed that returning Hawaiians to the land was the best way to rehabilitate his people. He spearheaded the passage of the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act and founded the first Hawaiian Civic Club as ways to advocate for and uplift the Hawaiian community.
When Prince Kuhio established the Hawaiian Civic Club of Honolulu in 1918, he did so with the idea, or with 3 goals in mind, and that was to restore social and intellectual status to his people, and also to encourage leadership and to encourage people to embrace their heritage. At that time of a forced transition into a new world for our kupuna, It was really very difficult to do, and he did this or led this transition as a leader with such elegance and dignity. And his relationship, his friendship with Bina Mossman, I think she also possessed that kind of elegance and a real strong, focused style of leadership that was really made even more beautiful by her music.
Aunty Bina, who always had such a regal but humble presence. She was always well-dressed. She spoke like kupuna of that age did, very slowly, with thought behind what they said. And I think that comes from knowing your lineage and who you are, and that service to humanity, whether it's the world or our culture, is the most important directive in one's life.
Kuhio passed away in 1922, but his legacy was evident in Bina's life. In that very same year, Bina herself would become the first woman delegate to the Republican Territorial Convention, an employee of the Hawaiian Homes Commission, and an active member of the Hawaiian Civic Club of Honolulu. One Honolulu club tradition that continues to this day is the Holoku Ball, a yearly event that raises money for their scholarship fund.
And so what the Holoku Ball is, it really is an elegant Hawaiian evening of entertainment. We generally have community members that we honor. And so the Holoku Ball event combines all of that with what has become a very successful fundraiser, a scholarship fundraiser for the Hawaiian Civic Club of Honolulu. And the holoku is the name of it's a long formal gown worn by Hawaiian women or worn by women with a long train. Aunty Bina was really noted for not only promoting the holoku, but also making her own. They would travel to perform, and she would pick up fabric along the way, and she'd come home and make these beautiful holoku.
Mrs. Mossman, who was chairman of the Holoku Ball for its first 3 years, has played an active role in perpetuating the tradition. She is noted for her expertise in holokus and for her elaborate collection of various styles and adaptations. Because of the scarcity of ready-to-wear holoku, Mrs. Mossman designs her own to be custom sewn. At occasional community gatherings, Mrs. Mossman will present a one-man showing of her collection with full historical commentary.
We're currently gearing up for next year's big event, which will be the centennial of the Hawaiian Civic Club of Honolulu. And so the Holoku Ball event combines the festivities and the beauty of really good food and good music and hula and all those things that we still enjoy, those things that our kupuna before us enjoyed as well.
And I think it's interesting how those kupuna were civic leaders. So I can see Mrs. Mossman naturally becoming involved in this movement of civic identity, civic engagement, civic leadership.
I like public life. Music is my first love. Politics, second.
Bina's strong sense of civic duty propelled her into Hawaii politics at a time when very few women were active in this arena. In 1938, she became the first woman elected as representative from the 5th District of Oahu, then one of only 2 Oahu districts. She served a total of 3 terms as a member of the Territorial House of Representatives, and politics would come to the forefront of her life. Open-air campaign rallies of the time featured the best in Hawaiian entertainment, and music was used as a draw to help spark community interest in activism. For many years, Bina was the Republican chairman to coordinate music troops at political rallies across Oahu.
I used to run from district to district, even down in the country, to see that there were musicians playing at all the rallies. You can't beat those days. Really, it was fun.
I can recall that during the political season, rallies were held at the parks around town, and all of the people running for office would have their trucks or banana wagons, as they called them in those days.
They told us they jump on the back of the trucks and they would sing, and they would go from area to area, and that's how they campaigned for their favorite candidate.
And we would always see Mrs. Mossman, and their musicians were the ones who garnered the votes for them. If you had a popular group, the more people would turn out and the more people would vote for you. So that was a very important time. If your music was good, your candidate would surely win.
From 1940 to 1957, Bina served as the Republican National Committeewoman for Hawaii. In 1953, Governor Samuel Wilder King appointed her High Sheriff of the Territory of Hawaii. Bina also served as president of the Oahu League of Republican Women from 1950 to 1953. She was a passionate advocate for women's rights and felt a special responsibility to forward legislation that would better the lives of children and the underprivileged.
As a mother, of course, my heart is with children, and I'm interested in legislation which will benefit them. I honestly believe that the women of Hawaii should take full advantage of the rights of suffrage granted them by the Constitution and accept the challenge of the day, which calls for progressive action in a world of rapidly changing social economic conditions.
And she lived at a time, I believe, when the women of the family were very, very strong. As I said before, she was very strong-willed, strong-minded. They lived at a time when they were the matriarchs. Not to say that our dads didn't have a say or two, but they knew how to run the family in such a way that they were respected by all, the children and their husbands.
Our women leaders led these political charges. And it's beautiful because although in one turn you see them singing and enjoying their music, they're also meeting and convening for political ideas.
Bina also used her political voice to bring awareness to growing land issues, and in 1955, she took her concerns to a Republican conference held in Portland, Oregon.
Mrs. Bina Mossman, Republican National Committee woman for Hawaii, will tell delegates to the GOP Western Conference next week that Hawaii is having trouble getting land back from the federal government. Mrs. Mossman, a member of the conference's Committee on Federal Lands, said yesterday, she has prepared a report on federal land ownership here. She will present the report to the conference. It shows that federal government controls more than 300,000 acres of land from which the territorial government derives no income.
After playing a prominent role in the Republican Party for 35 years, Bina would resign from her positions as Territorial High Sheriff and Republican National Committeewoman in 1957, leaving behind a legacy of advocacy and public service still remembered today.
It's about knowing who you are as Kanaka and ideas of who you want to be and who your children will become, or your grandchildren, even if you don't have them yet.
In 1958, just 1 year after retiring from politics, Bina was appointed curator of Hanaya Kamalama, Queen Emma's home in Nu'uanu Valley.
It's a pleasant change. I've retired for good as far as politics is concerned. I plan to devote all my time to Queen Emma's home.
Queen Emma's Summer Palace, also known as Hanaya Kamalama, was the summer residence and private home of Queen Emma, her husband Kamehameha IV, and their son Prince Albert Edward Kauikeaʻuli. Queen Emma came into the inheritance of Hanaya Kamalama after the death of her uncle John Young II, who many knew as Keʻoniʻana, and that was a year after she married Kamehameha IV.
And so the family used it as their private residence to come away from hot and dusty downtown Honolulu, as well as the protocol of Iolani Palace. And it was a place where they could just be a family, where she could come and garden, ride her horses, enjoy her time with her son, Prince Albert, outside in the yard.
Like many of their ali'i contemporaries, motivated by the waves of great change and loss sweeping across Hawaii in the mid-1800s, King Kamehameha IV and Queen Emma were devoted to doing all they could to improve the conditions of their people. In 1855, the king shared with the legislature his vision to create a hospital to combat the influx of foreign disease that was devastating the Hawaiian population. Emma enthusiastically supported this dream, and the two campaigned tirelessly to make it a reality, personally going door to door to solicit the necessary funding. In a little over 1 month's time, they had secured the funds needed to establish the Queen's Hospital. Emma herself would endure great personal tragedy, first losing her son, Prince Albert Edward Kauikeaouli, at only 4 years of age, and then her husband, King Alexander Liholiho, just 1 year later in 1863. She became known as Kalele o Nālani, the flight of the heavenly chiefs, in commemoration of her loss. Despite this heartbreak, Emma would persevere as a leader of her people, even challenging David Kalakaua for the throne in 1874. Emma would remain the center of steadfast and unwavering support from her people until her death in 1885.
Oh, Queen Emma was a beloved queen by the people of Hawaii. She was known for her gentle kindness, her graciousness, her hospitality, as well as her love for her people. And she played a very significant role because she was the queen during a time when the Hawaiian Kingdom was experiencing many, many changes. And she had the opportunity to be a part of that time in which she could see what the needs of the people were. She understood all of the Western influences that came into the kingdom, whether it was for business or sickness, disease, whatever the issues were, she found ways to help for the betterment of the Hawaiian people. Very significant in the area of healthcare, health and wellness for the people, education, and faith.
As keeper of Hanaya Kamalama, Bina guided visitors on tours of the home, sharing information about the royal family and their personal items on display.
The role of a curator at this museum it's very simple. It is to malama everything that you see here, the artifacts, the portraits, the personal items, the home, the history of Hanaya Kamalama, and to also tell the story of the lives of the people who lived here. And it's really truly done with aloha and the kuleana that you carry as someone, as a curator. It's a very big responsibility, but because you understand what this place is and what its meaning is, you really do it with aloha.
Bina was appointed to the curator position by the Daughters of Hawaii, an organization founded by 7 daughters of American Protestant missionaries. These women, all born in Hawaii and citizens of the kingdom before annexation, foresaw the inevitable loss of much of the Hawaiian way of life.
So the organization they formed in 1903 was to help perpetuate the Hawaiian culture, to save the history and melis, and do whatever they could to perpetuate Hawaiiana, the culture, the language, and they were the ones who were instrumental in saving this home. This home was actually going to be demolished. The government put a note in the paper to say that they were going to tear down the house. They were going to put a baseball diamond here. And so the Daughters of Hawaii heard about that. They petitioned the government. It took 2 years, but they got permission to run this house, and they had to run it and operate it as a house museum.
Bina would remain as curator of the Summer Palace for 10 years, caring for the home as if it were her own, and lovingly maintaining the legacy of the Queen.
Nestled low in the grandeur of its valley setting, Emalani's house kept a peaceful silence throughout the cool, high-ceilinged rooms. but it was alive, with the characteristic scent which lingers like a ghost in old island homes. A sweetness in the air, a blend of strong-scented flowers and lauhala mats, with perhaps a trace of smoke from oriental mosquito punk. From somewhere in the back of the house, there came the measured rhythm of a lively yet stately tread. The hostess who came forward to bid welcome to the house of royalty was Bina Mossman. Tall, straight-backed, and vigorous as an athlete, this veteran of a lifetime career in public service walked gracefully through the room toward a massive koa table with matching chairs. She wore a bright flowered mu'u and a pearl necklace and earrings. Her hair was dressed in the high pompadour style which Hawaiian and part Hawaiian matrons wear with dignity. There was a distinctive fillip in her voice and manner, with a mingling of island heartiness and aloha, and a down-to-earth straightforwardness.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We bring you greetings from Hawaii, the 50th state of the Union. The Ka'ahumanu Society Choral Group, composed of mothers, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers, is proud to have this opportunity to offer you a glimpse of old Hawaii through the medium of song and dance. We hope that in our program this evening we can impart to you some of the spirit of aloha for which our islands are famous, and that from these offerings you may understand the native Hawaiian culture of our islands.
As the tourism industry in Hawaii was growing in the 1950s and demand for Hawaiian music increased, Bina once again found herself called to lead. As a member of the Ahahui Ka'ahumanu, she organized the Ka'ahumanu Society Choral Group in 1952 and took Hawaiian music not only across the islands, but around the world. In her shows, Bina would innovatively weave music, dance, fashion, and history into a beautiful narrative, both teaching and entertaining her audiences all at once.
I was selected to be in a huge extravaganza that was going to take place at the Queen Surf, the Luau Garden. And so it was going to be put on by the Ahahui Ka'ahumanu, which Aunty Bina was the lead director of the choral group. And so this was a launching again for something that Aunty Bina would create in the latter part of her life. It was elegant and people were dressed in full formal regalia. And she was there, dressed in her holoku. Aunty Bina gave this responsibility because she knew that she would be sure that the Hawaiian woman of today, under the Ahui Kealani, would be lovely, gracious, humble, but respectful, educated, and proud to be Hawaiian.
During this time, Bina often worked alongside other well-known figures in mele and hula, including John Kamealoha Almeida, Lokalia Montgomery, Joseph Kaha'ulelio, Genoa Keawe, Ka'upena Wong, Maiki Ayu, and Kahawanu Lake.
Her music was very, very special and loved by so many of the musicians of the time, and that's why they shared her music wherever they went around the world. And of course, Aunty Bina traveled the world herself, going to world fairs in New York, San Francisco.
Between 1960 and 1978, the Ka'ahumanu Choral Group toured Europe, Asia, Canada, and the continental United States for weeks at a time, earning them the nickname the Traveling Tutus.
But I can imagine like Bina Mossman's Glee Club, or especially the Kamehameha Choral Society, that one, definitely being like all these aunties. Imagine like your 60-year-old aunties like jumping on a plane. We're gonna jam, boy! And then we're just gonna go and sing and whatever. That's a fun party. I don't know. Bina Mossman was having a good time. She had a good time. And her mele shows that, continues to show that.
Wearing mu'umus and lahala hats, Bina and her girls traveled through Japan, visiting Nagoya, Kamakura, the Mikimoto Pearl Island, Nikko, and Hakone.
In nearly every hotel, the manager asked us to perform for the guests, and of course, music being our first love, we were delighted to do it. While in Hong Kong, the manager of the hotel enjoyed our singing so much that he asked us to stay another week at their expense. So we did, and had a wonderful time.
You know, like with her choral groups, she always sought perfection. So pronunciation, pitch, whatever it happened to be, she demanded the most out of you.
And I remember she would be walking around, checking out all of the girls, make sure, hey, fix your hair, and doing this and doing that. Hey, no drinking until after, because some of these tutus, a little toot here and there, right? And she'd be all over. And so I'm looking at her, I'm saying, wow, boy, she's, like a top sergeant, man. But once they took the stage and the lights came on, big smile, and I mean, it was just, that was in her blood too, is that she was an entertainer also, not just a composer, but an entertainer.
This is why Bina Mossman is like a big hero for me, because she took group singing far. And she took it seriously, and she realized what value it had in so many different arenas. Aunty Bina explained her grandma as someone who was very meticulous, someone who made sure everything was in its right place. And if it wasn't, then it would be. Then she would make sure that it would be. It shows up in her music.
I was not fortunate enough to study under Aunty Bina or Mrs. Mossman, but I know that my mother shared many wonderful times in music with her. My mother loved her compositions, and as a matter of fact, was certain to include them in her repertoire, whether it was for choral singing or with her groups that she had, and there were many of those. And she spoke lovingly and admired the woman from the very beginning. She was so regal. She carried herself beautifully as a musician, as an entertainer, and as a politician.
Growing up, sometimes I didn't want to go to school. And when I didn't go to school, because we lived in Kaneohe, my father would drop me off at her house, which was in town in Kalihi. Usually, we were very careful when we went over to her house. It's not lie around and have fun. On this one particular day, I said I wasn't feeling well, so he dropped me off at her house. And I knew what time she went to work. I also knew that in this big Chinese trunk that she had were my auntie's hula skirts. Now, my auntie danced at the Lexington Hotel in New York, so had a collection of cellophane hula skirts, which were popular in her day. All different colors, and in my child eyes, just the most beautiful thing in the world. I could not wait to touch them, because of course, We're never allowed to touch it. All wrapped in tissue paper, all different colors. As soon as my tutu left, I waited a little while, looked around, nobody's home but me. I opened that trunk and I got out the hula skirts, and hula skirts and tops. And I had a ball. I tried them all on, every color in the rainbow. And I was dancing around and looking at myself and just enjoying these hula skirts. They were so pretty. Then I knew what time she was coming home. So I carefully wrapped everything back up, put it in the chest, and jumped into bed and said to myself, no problem. I had a great day. And I hear her coming home. So I'm lying there looking sick. She walks in the bedroom, she looks at me and she goes, I told you not to touch those hula skirts. And I just looked at her. She must have seen one little strand of cellophane somewhere, but I didn't see it. She saw it immediately and she knew what I had been doing. I never touched it again.
When we came to campus here, she lived upstairs with us, and in time, she got to the age where she couldn't go up and down the stairs. So she had a little sitting room and a bedroom and a bathroom. She was always so dignified. She never let herself go. She always well-groomed. In fact, the day she passed away, she got up in the morning before breakfast. She made her bed. She went into the bathroom and brushed her teeth and used the bathroom. She got dressed, did her hair, then she climbed back in bed and she lied there and she went to sleep. And that's how she found her. I mean, she was 96 years old?
97.
97 years old. She said, okay, now's the time for me to go. And she prepared herself. And it was like, wow. She went up there to deliver her breakfast. She came back with the breakfast tray. She was crying a little bit. I said, what's the matter? She says, Tutu just passed. And she was just, very peaceful with her hands over, it's just like she was in a coffin already. She was lying there, and I said to myself, thank you, thank you for not only the years that we've had and stories that we can share, the memories that we embrace, but just the way she decided to, no humbug, no fuss, she just went.
Bina Mossman lived in a Hawaii very different from that of today. And yet, for the upcoming generation of young Hawaiian leaders, her life story and outstanding contributions are more relevant than ever. This Renaissance woman was not only an exquisite composer and musician, but a true servant of her community who gave voice to the causes of her time.